Now I think we are going live in three.
All right, no problem. So, good evening, Jedi Knights and Sith Lords, and welcome to the very first Star Wars Artifact show. So, this is going to be a weekly rendezvous, and Eric and I are going to discuss about all Star Wars project, and whether it's about a movie, Disney Plus series, or any project in the oven for the Star Wars universe. So let's just introduce ourselves to begin with. So I'm Dominic, aka Lord Doom. You might see my reviews on a weekly basis. And my friend tonight is, and my co host for the upcoming show is Eric, or TBD. So TBD is to be determined
We need
because,
to find a name. So
yeah, we're going to have to find him a nickname in the future.
I
So,
had a hard enough time making this all work, so the name was not the priority, but we're a
true.
little bit late, but we got it finally going there. So
And who knows, we might organize a contest to find your future
yeah.
nickname.
Now I'm
Could be
really
fun.
scared. Yeah. All right.
All right, so tonight we're going to discuss about the making of the Obi-Wan Kenobi series that came out last week. And it's called, you might already know it, it's Jedi's Return. So there's a lot to talk about. I really enjoyed watching this 1 hour making of. So I don't know, Eric, did you saw it? Did you
Yeah,
enjoy it?
I mean, I always enjoy their making of, getting the behind the scene. I obviously try not to. I avoid them at all costs before, and even sometimes in the past, I've avoided them just to not ruin the magic of
Hmm.
what you see, and all of a sudden, you see a blooper. Then next time you see that scene, it's completely different. You know that something else happened. But in these
Hmm.
cases, I find Disney does it very well. They don't go too in depth. They don't show any kind of like stupid stuff behind the scenes. They mostly show emotion and like we're gonna talk about now, like reuniting cast members and bringing back some stuff. So I really appreciate that kind of stuff. And they've done it for the Mandalorian and Boba Fett, and it was all really good so far. So
Hmm. Absolutely true. So okay, let's get into it. So the documentary begins with Sir Alec Guinness. He's telling us how challenging it was for him to play the role of Obi-Wan Kenobi. I don't know about you, but it felt good to see him in the slippers. And
got some
uh,
flashbacks of Tarkin there in his slippers too when I saw that.
true,
So yeah,
it's so
so
true because he never wore the boots when they were filming above the waist, right?
yeah,
So
it was very good to
that,
see him. Very
that
happy to
felt
see him.
good.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy hearing him saying how challenging it was for him, even though he was a skilled actor. But it was the first time he was playing in this science fiction project, and he had to discuss with George Lucas about the way to approach his character. And Lucas told him that it was something between a samurai, a wise man, and a monk, and that's how he was able to get in the shoes of Obi-Wan.
Well, it's definitely. I mean, if you think about it and you describe those three things, you can easily identify it to Obi-Wan's character. So he obviously succeeded at doing that. So
Yeah, I think Lucas nailed it to vulgarize as possible the way to approach Obi-Wan. So that was good. And then we see Ewan McGregor for the first time in the documentary, who also serves as executive producer. And he watches images of episode 4 on the volume. So I thought it was nice that they used the volume to display images of the original trilogy so that Ewan could see those.
yeah, yeah. I mean, we saw that numerous times during the documentary, and you could just feel the emotion that they're going through as they're watching it. So, and it's kind of something we probably all shared as we were watching the show as well. So,
Yeah, I think I had a smile all the way when I was watching the documentary. He tells us that before being cast as Obi-Wan, he first saw the movie when he was 5 or 6 years old, and he decided to become an actor when he saw Alec Guinness play the role of Obi-Wan. I thought it was pretty neat and a little bit foreseeing for the future.
Yeah.
That he would eventually become that very same character. So I thought it was a good twist of fate for Ewan.
Yeah, yeah. And I think even they were talking about when he actually came back for the role, they were actually the same age or close to being the same age or something like that. So anyway, but except he looks a lot better for some reason. But
Yeah,
Ewan McGregor never ages. So
yeah, because I always thought that Alec Guinness was like in his 70s when he was shooting the movie, which was not the case at all.
well, not to digress, but I mean, I think anyone who's watched Cobra Kai, someone brought up the fun fact that the Daniel LaRusso is the same age as like Mr. Miyagi went from the original movie, and that blew my mind as well. So it's aging us, unfortunately.
I didn't know that detail. Wow,
Yeah,
that's pretty impressive.
yeah,
And that would be Deborah Chow, who is the director of the series, and she decided to make the very first scene, the one with the sand whale. So that's the one they shot first, and she wanted to introduce Obi-Wan's character right away. And I think it was a good fit for him, especially that since he had been in the playing the role of Obi-Wan for about 20 something years now.
yeah.
So that has been a while, and was a smooth way to reintroduce him to the character. So right after that, uh, Deborah puts the table saying where the series stands for those who haven't seen it yet. So uh, it's 9 years prior to the Battle of Yavin, and the Jedi Order is gone. The last Jedi are being hunted, and the Empire is in total control. So that's where the series began. And the main challenge was to tell an original story that translated the passage between episode 3 and episode 4. So that was the main challenge for both Ewan McGregor and Deborah Chow. And I don't know for you, but I think they kind of nailed it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like like a lot of the series that are coming out now. I mean, if you didn't have a chance to go and watch any of the series that have occurred during the whether it be the animated series or whatnot, like you have there's so many Easter eggs that you can pick up on, and I know Dom, you pick up probably even like a lot more than I probably do, but like you know, it's these are the fillers that Disney's giving us, but there's tons of stuff that's still canon that if you get to go watch those series, and it'll obviously help. And we even saw it in the book of Boba Fett, you know, these characters that are reoccurring in this one as well. So if you haven't seen those series and animated or whatnot, I mean, you got to try and go and do that as soon as possible to catch up. So
Yeah, for sure. And then after that little reunion with Ewan and Deborah, we hear from Ewan McGregor, who tells us how it all began when he first met George Lucas. When he got the role, he was almost certain he wouldn't get the role, but he ended up having it. So he was really thrilled. And when he first saw George, George gave him a tour of the studios, and they saw the bungo, the submarine that the uh, Boss Nass gives Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon. And he remember being so naive, thinking that the bungo would actually go underwater. And George had to look at him and say, "Well, it's all movie magic. It's not for real."
yeah, yeah, we're innocent Obi-Wan. So
Yeah, so you would admit it feeling a little bit uh, naive for that part, but it's okay. It's part of the imaginary. Sometimes I even catch myself thinking that what I'm seeing is totally real, and it's the magic of movies.
yeah, it's
In the end.
shocking to see how much stuff is like even now, even like regular scenes now. You keep seeing that on the internet sometimes where it's just a simple scene in a city and there's this big giant green screen in the back. So who knows what's real and what's not anymore. And obviously, looking at the documentaries of Star Wars that have come out, you see especially the ILM one that came
Hmm.
out. They explain how it just Lucas led the way for this whole digital, you know, movies and stuff like that. So that's another thing. If you haven't watched that one, the ILM documentary is extraordinary as well. So
Yeah, it's a must for every Star Wars fan,
yeah.
especially the first three episodes. They are almost all focused on Star Wars, so that's
And even
that's
if you're
something
not a
to
Star
watch.
Wars fan, just to see how it paved the way for like
Yeah,
just every blockbuster movie from Jurassic Park and Avatar and everything like that, it's just it really led the way, we owe so much to George Lucas for where we're at today with cinema. So
yeah, all the way till the MCU.
yeah,
Now,
yeah, for sure.
so uh, when Ewan came back to shoot the series, he was wondering if he was still first in good shape, but also how long it would take to feel the boots of Obi-Wan again to get himself into the character. And luckily for him, he said that as soon as he put on the Jedi tunic and the belt and the cloak, it was almost instantaneous that he was back. He felt right away that he was back being Obi-Wan Kenobi. So I guess that eased the part of getting into the character for him, and it was pretty cool seeing him that it never went far away from him. He still there was always a little bit of Obi-Wan in Ewan McGregor.
Well, I mean, speaking for myself, and I'm sure a lot of members as well who are part of the 501st Legion. I mean, you put on a stormtrooper outfit, or I mean, I've seen people become night and day. Like they have a certain personality. Even when they put on their Darth Vader, they're a complete different person, right? So it's like you feel like you're that character, and I can't even imagine if you are if you and McGregor, right? The feeling we get when you put on a stormtrooper outfit. Imagine the feeling he gets when he puts on his cloak as Obi-Wan. Like, this guy is Obi-Wan, right? So I'm sure it was like a bicycle. You never forget. So
So true, and Deborah even said what you just said, that for her, Ewan McGregor is Obi-Wan Kenobi.
yeah, yeah. Uh,
So
no one would have wanted to see anyone else come back for that role, and I don't think they would have made a series if he didn't come back. So
I don't think so either. It just wouldn't felt right.
no,
Same thing for Aiden Christensen.
yeah, yeah. That's anyway. I'm so happy that we ended up with this series, and like again, like that to follow up with this behind the scenes stuff is it's a we're really spoiled by what I mean. A lot of people, I guess it's controversial. They have their own opinions about Disney, but I think that like we're getting a lot of stuff, and we obviously can't complain. So
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes it's a hit or miss, but that one I think they nailed it
yeah,
completely. Yeah.
yeah.
So then we're introduced to the Inquisitors. So we have the Grand Inquisitor, who used to be a Jedi Temple guard and was seduced by the dark side. And according to the rumor, he's the one that killed all the Temple guards uh, before Anakin stormed the Jedi Temple. And that's the reason we never saw Temple guards fighting back during the execution of Order 66 in Episode 3.
Hmm.
So that's a little tidbit that I felt I had to
Yeah,
tell you guys.
that's I'm learning too, right? Like I mean, like I said, that the stuff that you know is far exceeds the stuff that I know. So like I'm learning as well. I'm just like a kid in a candy store when you start giving us some context to this stuff. So
And we have the fifth brother, which we saw in the Rebel series. You saw that series, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Good. So I think they did a good rendition of the character. It's impossible to have him look completely identical as a cartoon for sure. But they did a good thing. I would have liked to see a little bit more screen time maybe with him. But what we saw was pretty decent and pretty okay. So
to go back on what you just said, the Grand Inquisitor, there was a lot of scrutiny when
yeah,
he was first shown, right? I mean, he had this long, kind of almost like a cone head kind of look guy, right? Like,
true.
and when his first images came out, the first trailer, there was a lot of criticism, but I think
Yeah,
in the end, it all comes down to give it a chance, right? So, and I think it worked out well.
because we saw an individual from the same species in episode 3.
Yeah,
and he had the elongated head,
yeah,
but he was standing still. He was not fighting with a lightsaber, you know.
yeah, yeah.
So the dynamic of making the head look like it was supposed to be, but functional for a lightsaber battle, that's a whole different thing, you know.
Yeah.
So
I
I
think
guess
it
that
also might have went with the actor's the shape of his face. You know, they cast the right person, and then
yeah,
after that, they're like, well, if we make his head any longer, now it's really going to look like a giant egg because he looked like he had a little bit of a wider face. So
true.
they work with what they have. But I mean, who knows, right? Behind the scenes, they didn't speak about that, and I don't think that they would have spoken about any controversial stuff. But like, I don't know. In the end, I think it's a cartoon, it's an animated series, or whatever it is. I mean, we got to manage our expectations, and then again, the execution, I think, in the end was very good. So
Hmm. And then we shift our attention to Reva, also known as the Ninth Sister. Well, if the Grand Inquisitor was polarizing, I think that character was even more polarizing
yeah,
because some loved her, some hated her. Nothing to do with the actress though. She was pretty good, but I think it was how the character was used more than the performance of the actress. So to me, I would have liked. I think that if Vader killed her at the end, I think it was episode chapter 5, it would have been okay because she tried. She had her chance to get rid of Vader to get her revenge, and she failed. But the part where she goes to Tatooine and abduct Luke and all that, I think that was the part that bothered me a bit. But it's not that catastrophic, you know. It's not a it didn't ruin my pleasure watching the series, but you know it tickled me a little bit. You know, I don't know for
yeah.
you.
That I don't know. For me, that whole scene in like the kind of dark desert chasing
Hmm.
around, that's probably wasn't like with the Luke thing. It wasn't my favorite scene, but I mean, and there was so much other stuff that I was happy for, and it was funny because I I almost spoiled it for myself because when I saw the actress, I'm like, she's got too much of a baby face. I mean, I think the very first scene you see in the whole series is like, the little girl, and you're like, oh, wait a minute. I mean, it's very easy to put, two and two together for
Yeah,
that, where that was leading. And it's fine. My prediction didn't come completely to fruition, like, but like I was pretty close, and I was happy with the direction that they took. And again, like, she's got too much of a nice face, and she looks like just like a nice person that was like stuck in this kind of, I guess in the same kind of Anakin, good or bad, and like, living with that anger, and that's how she turned, right? So
yeah. Well, she's in that gray zone when the series began. You know, she's Obi-Wan is the light side, Vader is the dark side, and she's somewhere in between. She's redeemable, but she doesn't know and doesn't want to be redeemed until it might be too late. So
we have Guillaume Ludo who says, "I believe when you hate a character, that it's because the actor nailed it," and that's definitely true. When
yeah,
you can make someone hate you on screen, I mean, I watch professional wrestling with my kid, and a lot of the time it's like I hate this guy. Like, geez, I can't take him. But like, again, they're doing their role. They're there.
yeah,
If there's no bad reaction, you want to get a reaction out of the crowd, and out of your fans, and whatnot, and that's what's going on. So that's absolutely right.
that's so true. Yeah, I totally agree with you. And then we see two actors that I was really glad to see again, which is Bonnie Piesse and Joel Edgerton, who play Anne Beru and Uncle Owen Lars. So that felt good seeing them taking the role again and playing those two characters that we learned to love and we saw so briefly in almost all the movies we saw them. It was brief in episode 2. It was brief, very brief in episode 3, and episode 4. Well, they die like what in the first 30 minutes. So it felt good to develop their relationship, and I thought that Anne Beru was so badass when she decided to take action and grab some guns and say, "We're going to make a stand for Luke," and we're not gonna just stand there and surrender whoever is coming to get him.
No, it was good to put some kind of, like you said, I guess the term would be badass, behind
Yeah.
their characters, and to show that they were doing their job protecting Luke, knowing exactly the context behind where he came from and whatnot. And I was happy that Joel came back to the show, because he's become a much bigger profile actor since then. I mean,
Hmm.
performing in one of my favorite movies, Warrior, and many other movies. And you know, for him to come back to the series, and even though it was a very limited role, was great. So it's nice. I think everyone wants to come back if they can, obviously, to this the universe. So
Yeah, true. So, and they seemed genuinely happy to work again with each other.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Honestly, I'm not familiar with her if she's done anything else.
I don't know.
I know Joel was doing movies and still does movies, but with her, I had no idea. But again, it's always fun to have that genuine feel to it when they bring back all the real actors. Right?
Yeah, true. And then they take us to the creature shop. We see all the different aliens they had to create, especially for the scenes on Dayu. That's a planet that looks a little bit like Hong Kong in the series that we see in episode 2.
Yeah,
Uh, I don't know for you, but my favorite one was the one with the 20 eyes in its
yeah,
face.
yeah, yeah,
I thought it was so well articulated and so well done. I was really impressed seeing that one.
yeah. Like, it can be easy also to come up with even more original characters and whatnot. But like, it's fun that they're sticking to a more traditional, approach to the characters and whatnot. Again, especially again when you watch the ILM documentary, and you see
Mhm.
that I guess competition between the more traditional special effects and the digital. And I'm really glad. And we all know, I mean, they went back to that with the sequels, right, trying to go a bit more I guess the more traditional route with their special effects, rather than making everything digital like we had with the prequels.
Mhm. And then we skip to locations, and Deborah, for reasons we can understand, says that Dayu was the planet that she liked the most because it reminded her of Hong Kong and maybe a little bit of Bangkok at night. So
Visually, it's stunning, right? Like, it's
yeah,
probably one of the most visually stunning scenes in going back to was episode 2. Uh,
yeah, true.
yeah.
The
So
scenes where there was the bar and the chase with the speeders and
yeah,
everything.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, and but to me, the favorite planet I enjoyed was seeing Alderaan because we saw so little of Alderaan before the Death Star blew it up in episode 4.
yeah. Well, when
Uh,
we saw it, it was in very little pieces. So we
yeah,
saw we saw it very little, but we saw it in very little pieces as well after the explosion. So it's
yeah, yeah.
yeah. I guess that's one way to look at it. But yeah, it was fun to see that and get some context. It's always kind of sad though to kind of see that. And I think it even goes as far back as when you see it in Rogue One,
Hmm.
and they put context. I mean, when you watch in episode 4, it just blows up. It was a little circle, boom, that's it.
Yeah,
But like now to put, like, that there were people there, population, and like they're all gone. I don't know. It was a little tough to watch.
it adds to the tragedy of the situation. It's we see how beautiful it was, and then now you feel bad for whatever happened. The Empire looks even more evil doing what they
Yeah,
did.
yeah, and that's a job that they continue doing. Obviously, in the series is, especially with Vader. I mean, we'll get to that, but like it's really showed him being ruthless, and showed why everyone was so scared of Darth Vader. So
Yeah, so true. And then we're introduced to Kumail Nanjiani. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but he plays Aja Estri, the little imposter, Jedi imposter,
yeah,
in that series. And I I first saw him in Eternals
yeah, same for me.
from the
He
MCU.
was great, absolutely
Yeah,
great. Probably stole the show in that. So
yeah,
yeah,
and he did a good job too in the Obi-Wan series. I mean, he he approached his role, you know, only by watching the movies, none of the animated series. So he wanted to be um, well. The exercise he did was like, if I only know what I know, how would I do it? How would I? impersonate a Jedi, you know. So,
Hmm.
and I think he did it pretty well,
Yeah.
and his interactions with Reva were good, and I kind of felt for him when we saw all the ropes pulling him into the wall
Yeah.
for the fake force push, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, whoa, they threw him hard, you know. They're doing it for real, but with ropes and some padding, obviously to reduce the impact. But he went in hard, pretty hard, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. It was a good character. I mean, at first when he came out, you're just like, where are we going with this? I mean, it was nice to
Hmm.
circle back to him right after. So
But I think my favorite character in this series that was not, you know, the Leia, Obi-Wan, and Vader was Indira Varma's character, which is Tala Durit,
yeah,
who helps Obi-Wan go from a broken face to a hopeful face. She's the trigger that helps him move on from and leaving the past, you know.
yeah. It's it's funny because like whenever we've seen Obi-Wan, he's the one playing that role, and like in this series,
True.
he's absolutely broken, and he needed someone. And you can I guess read a bit too much into it, but you know that threw him back into in the right path, and who knows how that affected him in the the further movies after that. So the guidance that he gives to Luke is whether it be like the Force, Obi-Wan, or whatever it is, right? Like the
Mhm.
but yeah, I mean she was I mean again there's not one character I didn't really like in this. So
And she works for an organization. I think it's called the Path, and that reminded me of the Underground Railroad. Railroad, sorry,
yeah,
during the slavery in the United States. So it felt pretty good, and you know I like seeing people that were you know they didn't necessarily believe everything the Empire said about the Jedi. Some still believe that the Jedi were good and they deserve to be saved and helped in order to restore peace and justice in the galaxy.
but it goes to
So,
show. I mean I don't remember where I heard it where they were saying no one ever defected from the Empire and whatnot and everything like that. But I mean to get political, I mean, and we know when something like that happens, like in her case, they keep it hush hush and they make sure that it doesn't come out, right? So
mhm, yeah, pretty true. So yeah, I think Varma really nailed it during the series, and she helped Obi-Wan become or come back, I should say,
yeah,
the character that he used to be in the prequels. After that, we see O'Shea Jackson Jr., which is Ice Cube's son, if you guys didn't know it.
I only really
Uh,
know him from one movie, and I probably the same one that everyone else saw. But I mean, I don't remember him playing in anything else. But he was great as well. So
yeah, and he was a true Star Wars fan growing up as well. So was the rest of his family. So you could clearly see that he was like a kid in a candy store
yeah, in the
when he was shooting
documentary,
these things. Yeah,
it's completely polarizing to see how he's acting behind the scenes and how he's acting in the movie. I mean, in the series, like you really saw he's like just like a kid, and I
yeah,
can imagine it's how we would all be. I mean, in his position as well, right? So,
yeah. I think I would have been just the same.
I still hope like somewhere I hope that one day something will happen, like paths will cross, and like I mean, especially when they keep bringing 501st members into to fill in as stormtroopers. I don't know.
Hmm.
Maybe I'll be at the right place at the right time one time, and who knows? So
And you know what? If there's one character that we could or might see in the Andor series, that could be him.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
Because that series only takes place about 4 or 5 years after the Kenobi series. So we
They could
could
bring him
definitely,
later, right? And bring his
yeah,
dad. Use his dad. They look
why
alike.
not?
So
Yeah,
you have a couple of people on the chat. By the way, there's Rye Daddy. He says, "Hey Dominic, glad I got to catch your first live show."
yeah.
And
Thank you, Ryan.
Relevant Studio says, "Hey Dom." So,
All right. Well, thanks for being there, guys. I'm glad we got to see the show. Where were we? Oh yeah. Then we finally get introduced to the return of Aiden Christensen. That was something I was really happy to see happen. And there's a reunion. We see the reunion with Ewan and Hayden. In the volume, and the hug really
I
feels
put a picture of that hug exactly.
sincere. Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't pass that up. I mean, we try to like I guess try to avoid some of the spoilers. I mean everyone's seen the series, but like you don't want
Hmm.
to spoil the whole documentary as well. But like we're definitely a little bit too far into to go back on that. But man, that hug was incredible, and just the interaction. You almost feel like you were there with them. So
Yeah, and they spent so many time together. They did two movies together, and that takes so long to shoot. You become brother in real life as well,
yeah,
for sure. So and Ewan says that he still gets approached by some fans. When he goes to the grocery stores or out in public. And they always talk to him about his role as Anakin, and even if it's 20 years later. So it still surprises me that actors are actually surprised that fans are approaching them, talking about Star Wars, because it seems obvious, don't you think?
yeah. Well, I mean, I guess that they're in a different world, right? I mean, they touch so many things. I mean, Ewan McGregor's been in DC movies at this point, and done so much. But like, we know that fan base. We know that at times it could be one of the best fan bases, and at times it could be a little bit toxic. But like, it's just like the passion is undeniable, and obviously that they felt it despite what had happened in the past, and the people always crapping on the prequels, and
Hmm.
everyone was just so happy to see this um, to see them reunite, and have them back. And again, we're always just so happy to have the same actors come back for the roles.
Yeah, true. And the people who really enjoyed the prequels when they came out were the kids, and that's why the movie was made. It was made for the kids.
Well, I have
And
my nephew actually. I mean, he was on the chat earlier, but he that's what he grew up watching, and they liked Anakin. And
Mhm.
even my son, who's 9 years old, when I showed him all the movies, he thought Anakin was the coolest. And it was just I'm always gonna remember that moment when I told him, I explained to him Anakin is Darth Vader, and like the moment that it kind of clicked, and he was like,
Mhm.
what, like. But like to him, like he wanted Anakin figures, and then that's who he was. That was like his hero,
This
I
guy.
guess, right?
Yeah.
So, and for us, we had gotten to the point of being adults, and we're just like, like I never really hated the movies that much. I enjoyed them when I watched them, but like, yeah, like I mean, when you look at who's watching these movies now, who's left, I mean, I think they've grown on us, and the actors have grown on us, and we have a different appreciation now. And in some cases, a lot of the people hated the sequels so badly that they actually turned back and like the prequels now. So
So true.
yeah,
And the fact that we got to see the Clone Wars animated series afterwards, I think it helped us appreciate even more the prequels,
yeah,
because in between episode 2 and 3, everything happened so fast. But now that we got the Clone Wars, we can see the evolution of both Anakin and Obi-Wan's characters, and we see the tendency that Anakin has along the series, is becoming a little bit more darker and more darker, and it helps people realize that it didn't happen overnight. It didn't become a set overnight. There was a succession of events that brought him to that point.
yeah, yeah.
Not only the fear of losing Padme in episode 3, that was maybe the tipping point, but it was not the only reason. So
But it's like when you watch movies like that, you mean you get like a rocky kind of like progression where the guy goes to, you see one quick training thing and then he's done, right? Like he's all of a sudden
mhm,
he's a Jedi master. But like you said, like the growth, the maturing, even in this series of the Clone Wars, visually he looks completely different from season one to the transition towards what ends up being episode three. And it even gives so much more context to the clones that you grow an attachment to the characters, and you see that even though they're clones, they have their own individual personalities and stuff that
Yeah,
leads to obviously the Bad Batch and all the stuff that we have today. So I mean, we can't repeat it enough. But if you haven't seen any of those series, you got to go back and watch them. So
yeah. You can ask 10 people which is your favorite clone, and they're all gonna say a different clone.
yeah, yeah,
I mean, to me, it's Captain Rex. To somebody else, could be Cody, could be Captain Green, could be the list goes on. Jesse,
Spies or yeah,
Echo.
yeah,
Yeah, it's it.
never
So
ends. And it's fun. Like I mean, we see them in the movies where uh, you know Anakin's got his the blue troops and Obi-Wan's got the yellow or orange or I forget what color like
that's orange. Yeah,
but like you can see they each have their own and when you see all that um, in episode 3 after you have all that context it really changes everything so
yeah, and it makes the execution of Order 66 even more tougher to watch because those Jedi went through battles with their clones for like what 5 years.
yeah yeah
So they became friends with their captains or their general or their, and it's, it's terrible to see how easily because of that chip that they turned so quickly and uh,
I had hope that Rex was going to show up in this somehow
yeah,
but I mean obviously they couldn't fit all of it in there but I mean who knows also the timing and all that but I was hoping that I mean we did see a clone right but
yeah, it was about that was what I'm going to say
yeah
when Obi-Wan is on that you and he sees a clone which looks to be from the 501st because the markings are blue and he approaches him and I was like, is it Captain Rex?
yeah
Is it him? For a few moments I caught myself thinking that it could be Rex, but nah, it wasn't him.
no
But the Ahsoka series is coming,
he's gonna be in
and
there guaranteed
if
I
it
can't
has
believe he wouldn't
to
be
be in
in
the
there
series, that's the series,
yeah
So,
absolutely
so yeah, I can't wait for that series, which will be later on in 2023. So rest assured, we're gonna talk about that series when the time comes.
yep for sure
And then, well, Aiden talks about where Vader stands in his own journey. He was defeated on Mustafar. Uh, he still has obviously lots of anger in him, which fuels him, I think. And for him to complete his journey into the dark side, he absolutely has to kill Obi-Wan. For him, that's like a ritual he needs to perform to fully prove himself that he is a Lord of the Sith. And he almost does it when he first meets uh, Obi-Wan, when he drags him in the fire and everything. And obviously, Obi-Wan was not prepared to get in such a big fight since he had cut himself from the Force for all those years. And I think Obi-Wan got his ass kicked for sure.
yeah that's to put it lightly I guess but it's I mean I think everyone was waiting for that moment after first couple of episodes to see that
Hmm.
encounter and obviously there was a lot of like I guess controversy as well as some of the wording that was used in episode 4 when we last met
Hmm.
you were the master and so like there was a lot of that stuff that they had to try to fill the gap and but obviously they executed on that pretty well so I mean for the
Yeah,
first
because
fight and it was like you said Obi-Wan had lost pretty much all of his abilities and or a good chunk of his abilities and just he
Mhm.
wasn't ready to fight him at that point so
but I like the fact that he said that the terrified look he has on his face
yeah
is absolutely genuine. It's
this
not the actor. He's not acting at all. It's he sees the face of Vader and he became a kid back all those years ago and
yeah he was running
now
away and looks back and he's like well, you look back like it or not you turn around and it's Darth Vader that's walking
yeah,
towards you right so
that's pretty scary.
yeah
So I really laughed when I heard him say that. But it feels good, to see that even the actors are feeling like we do.
yeah
They're not that different from us. So even though they're much closer to the project and everything, so that's pretty cool. And then we see the lovely Vivian Lyra Blair, who portrays Leia. I really enjoyed learning that she learned how to read with Star Wars book.
Uh,
That those were the first book that she read as a kid. So that once again, it's another Star Wars fan who made her dream come true by playing in the Star Wars universe. So it's pretty fun, and we see that they develop a real relationship with Ewan McGregor because he had four daughters. So for him, it was so used to be around a little girl that it felt natural for him,
yeah, the chemistry really was
interacting with.
portrayed. You see it behind the scenes, and you see it definitely, during the series as well. And I think they couldn't have cast anyone better than what they did with her. So it was a great job.
And Vivian had to do the same homework Ewan did when he watched Alec Guinness. She had to watch Carrie Fisher, how she acted, how she behaved, and I'm really impressed that a 9 or 10 years old kid was able to do such a good work.
Well, it's you see it in one of the interactions when she's talking to Deborah Chow, and she goes, "Well, should I do it like this?" And should I like? And you're just like, man, like the maturity level
Yeah,
of this
yeah,
person is like, I think of my kids who are, around the same age, and I'm like, man, it's completely different. But I mean, some kids have that, right? It's just in them to be performers, and they hold it to the high standards. So
and she looked so sweet. Every time she saw a crowd during the celebration, she was looking so shy and hi everybody.
yeah, yeah.
It was all natural for her. I'm really impressed with the this young actress, and I think she's gonna have a bright career in front of her.
Yeah, I hope so. Hope so. I mean, I'm not sure if we're gonna see her again, obviously, unless there's another season. But even
Mhm.
then, if they had another season, I guess it's debatable as to whether or not she would be in it. The way they
Or if
left
it,
it off, I mean, I
mhm.
think it kind of follows the series or the chain of events that we see in episode 4. So
Yeah, I think that if there's a second season, it's gonna be more about Luke.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
my gut feeling. But
I'm
I
fine if
think,
they don't make one, but I mean,
oh yeah, for
yeah,
sure. If it stays like this, perfect.
yeah,
And then they're taking us to the moment we all wanted to see. I think Kathleen Kennedy said the rematch of the century,
yeah,
and we get to see the real fight between Obi-Wan and Vader when they are both back at their peaks, and that fight was epic. I don't know if
yeah.
it's the rematch of the century, but it was really good.
It was a
Uh,
good transition, and I think they kind of touch on the battle itself, like where episode 3 had such that coordination. It felt like a dance off, right? And with the
mhm,
lightsabers and everything like that. And I don't know if it's the age or what it is, but like Vader becomes more ruthless. I find in his an attack. It's not about like being fancy anymore. It's about destroying. And obviously Obi-Wan has to defend uh, differently, right? Rather than like I
mhm,
said, Anakin's not that little show off punk kid anymore, right? So
yeah.
I think it was a good transition for the lightsaber battle. I mean, a lot of that's come up. I mean, episode 4, it is what it is, right? Like, I mean, it was something that was done in 1977, the first time that
Mhm,
we've seen that. So, but I think in that aspect they did a good job. And the battle in the screen that I put up now is that kind of like I guess that Easter egg that I thought that that block behind the back that he did
mhm,
against Darth Maul, and just overall it was just fun to see Obi-Wan, and to see Obi-Wan in his real, I guess, potential and the power, and what we've seen, right? And I
yeah,
mean,
so
that's
true.
aside from the scenes that we've seen with Darth Vader again. To come back to that, like how he was just ruthless and so powerful, and when he stopped the ship and all that stuff, it's just we saw
Yeah,
them really in their primes, I think, in this series. So
yeah, and as you said, Obi-Wan had to be at his peak if he wanted to have a chance to survive that fight.
yeah,
I really like the scene where Obi-Wan smash his chest box with his lightsaber pommel.
yeah,
That was epic. And once he did that, I think the balance shifted in Obi-Wan's favor for the rest of the battle, and uh, obviously he ends up cracking his helmet, and it explains the big scar we see on Vader's head when Luke removes the Vader's helmet at the end of Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
So it's small details that are so well placed that you might not even notice them. But if you take time and look back to it, hey, that's the scar. They thought about that detail. That's pretty cool. I think that
Well, I think
they
that
did
like
a
for
lot.
me, the most emotional part of the whole series was definitely when he struck him in the helmet, and you can actually see Anakin, and you could see that like Obi-Wan is completely gutted by the fact that he realizes that Anakin's gone.
Yeah.
And that was like, it was almost like that's when he lived his death. That's when he really felt his death, I think, at that point. So,
Hmm. And when Vader says, is you didn't fail me, I killed Anakin,
yeah,
and we see some sort of a grin on his face. He looks happy to have killed Anakin.
yeah,
So
yeah. No,
that
it was a tough moment. I don't know. That was the moment that got me the most, I think, in that whole series. But I mean, obviously, their interaction together, and it's like, coming full circle was fun. But like, I don't know, it was tough to see Anakin die again. I guess it was kind of weird, if I can put it that way. So
yeah, that scene and the scene where Obi-Wan and Leia part ways at the very very end.
yeah,
That was emotional, especially that we hear the Force team, and for for the first time we had some John Williams songs playing, so that felt good. But when he says to Leia, "We've never met. This never happened."
yeah,
It sets also the table for the message that she leaves on R3D to hey, General Kenobi, you helped my father during the Clone Wars. And they don't even mention
yeah. In
having met.
case it gets intercepted or whatever, right? So
Mhm.
yeah, it's then I guess that leads to the final person we saw.
Yeah, finally we saw him. Obi-Wan called him during the 6 episodes, I think.
Yeah,
But he finally answered the call at the very, very end. We're talking obviously about Qui-Gon Jinn. Uh, I was glad that Liam Neeson, took back the role, even though it was like for a few brief moments.
yeah.
But he also looked happy to get back in the Star Wars universe, and I think again with Ewan. So it's always nice to see actors happy to go back and revisit some role they played in the past. So
It's funny for me. Like, I'm gonna nitpick here, and like I try not to do it because but his hair was longer, and and the only reason I say that is because when I watched episode 9 and we saw Luke, his hair was longer, and I'm like, what happens when these people die? Like, do their hair just keep growing or something? Like, it's just like I keep wondering, like, don't they have someone that's on staff with reference photos or something? But I mean, that's just me being nitpicking and at the series. But overall, yeah, I mean, I was definitely happy. I expected him to be in the series a lot more. But I like that their approach, that he wasn't really answering the call, and he wasn't, Obi-Wan wasn't in the right state of mind, I guess, to hear the
yeah,
message at that time, right? So,
it wasn't ready. Yeah, for sure. So well, I think I don't. There's not one
yeah,
last scene because we go to the credits, and after a few seconds, we cut back and we go to Star Wars Celebration 2022 in Anaheim, and we get to see all the love the actors got when they went on stage to introduce the Obi-Wan series. I know a friend who was there, well, more than a friend, about 4 or 5 friends who were there, uh, and they watched the conference, and they also watched the first 2 episodes of the series with like 5,000 other fans watching all at the same time. And one of my friends told me that it's going to be probably the best memory or best experience they ever had related to Star Wars, because everybody was happy, everybody was screaming, everybody was pumped to see those episodes, and the ambience was just surreal.
There's something special. I mean, I was in Chicago when they first revealed the trailer for Episode 9, and I was one of those people that just wasn't a fan of Episode 8 and
Hmm.
wanted a lot of the stuff to get fixed and hoping it was going to get fixed. And that trailer obviously showed you that they were on that path of, making things a little bit more right or aligned with what was happening in Episode 7. But um, I remember sharing that moment with I don't know how many thousands of people on the floor. I wasn't in the room, the conference hall where they had it, but I was in the big main hall
Okay.
of the celebration, and I just remember I was next to Sylvain and Martin, and we were all looking up at this screen with like thousands. It's all obviously a lot more people that would have been in that hall, and then when it ended, like everyone kind of looked at each other, kind of like, "Shit, am I the only one that's crying?" And like, no, like everyone was like had like a teary eyes and stuff, and it's like, and then obviously, the emperor comes out and says to play it again, and
Really
like,
did get.
yeah, so like that was just incredible. And I mean, I went to see one of the ones for the when they announced the Clone Wars, the final season, and all
Hmm.
that stuff. So sharing those moments with fans, even though you don't even know them, like you might know one or two that you're with, but like just so many passionate people from around the globe at those things is quite an experience, and it's hard to beat for sure.
Yeah. Well, hopefully one day I'll get to go at a celebration and experience, I'll live the dream. See it with my own eyes.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
perhaps when they ever do it in Orlando again, it's a question of time, I think, because well, next year it's London, but I think they're gonna go back to Orlando because of the Galaxy's Edge parks, and they will alternate between Anaheim and
But we got Galaxy's Edge
Orlando.
before. Both of us are gonna go see that before going to
Yeah,
see another celebration. So who knows? Maybe we'll be teary eyed and sharing that moment with a lot of people as well. So
yeah, for sure. The goal is for me is to go in the month of May, but it seems like I've been jinxed for the last 3 years now. So hopefully nothing will come in my way this time, and I'll be able to go to Galaxy's Edge because you know some people come to my house and say, "I think you have the biggest Galaxy's Edge collection in the entire province of Quebec." It's pretty insane. I've got all the lightsabers they've released so far, and several other items from there. So
yeah, you gotta
uh,
go pick one up yourself. So
that's it.
you
And
go do your own shopping.
the goal is to go, to be there for May the 4th. So hopefully
Cool.
they're going to release the new lightsaber during that time. They almost always do. So
Yeah,
the timing would be perfect, and I would, be able to live the experience and pick up my very own lightsaber. So
yeah.
yeah, it would be awesome. So I think is going to be it for tonight. I want to thank everybody who stayed or tagged along during that stream. I know it wasn't perfect, but it was our first, and it's only gonna get better. I promise you guys. And
Yeah,
next
as I
week,
learn OBS a little bit more and play with the
mhm,
graphics a little bit more, it's been I feel like I was cramming for an exam, but like I think we did all right. So
yeah. We're still alive though.
yeah,
And next week is gonna be pretty intense because we're gonna get to see the first 3 episodes of Andor, the Andor series. So I'm pretty pumped for that series. I've already made a video last week telling you guys how excited I was to see that series. So if you haven't watched it yet, I'll take a few minutes and go see it on the YouTube channel. And tomorrow I will be releasing a review. It's all a big concept. I'm releasing the review of the Obi-Wan Kenobi lightsaber, the version of the Kenobi series. So it's going to be pretty interesting seeing how they managed to do a thin neck and a fat neck, if I can call it so, that allows us to insert the blade. Those of you who have Luke Skywalker, Return of the Jedi lightsaber, we'll find out that it's pretty much the same. But I've added a little bit of lore into my review, so take a look, have a look at it tomorrow. It's gonna come out at 1 p.m. In French, 1:15 in English. So enjoy yourselves and have a look at that review. And well, that's it. Well, the only thing left for us to do is to wish you a good evening, a good night, and we'll see you next week.
All right. Thanks, Tom.
All
All
right.
right.
Thank you. Bye.
Goodbye.